You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
So great to see you. So today is our token desktop day, right? So, every year QuickBooks comes out with a new version, and we want to talk a little bit about those updates. So we're going to put this into encapsulating a fall update, fall 2023 QuickBooks update, which will include the desktop changes as well as some other things, because as you'll see, not much to talk about when it comes to desktop. Hello, Michelle, introduce.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Long, CPA, owner of Lock for Success. I've been a contract trainer for Intuit since 2007. So been around, did a lot of the What's New tour with the desktop in the old days where we used to city to city and share what's new with everybody. And so anyway, but I'm not even a beta tester for desktop anymore. So anyway, that's enough about me, Dan. Go right ahead.
Yep. Name is Dan DeLong, owner of Danwit, worked at Intuit for about 18 years, co-hosting today, as well as the co-hosting duties over at Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where we do a workshop Wednesdays, oddly enough, every Wednesday. Doing the tech editing of the QBO for Dummies last QB Power Hour. We had the author of the book join us, as well as some top 10 ProAdvisor accolades. A little bit about the QB Power Hour. It's every other Tuesday at noon. It's not eligible for CPE credit, but if you do have questions or need to review the last Power Hours, you can go to qbpowerhour.com/resources, where it has the recordings, podcasts, as well as the slide handouts, which I will post in the Q&A and the chat, which is our next slide here about the housekeeping. So if you have any questions about the topics that we're talking about today, please put them in the Q&A so we can answer them, address them, as well as follow up if need be. If you just have some general things to say, please put them in the chat. And then, of course, we have the links there for the handout. So our agenda today is we'll talk a little bit about real high level. We won't go into deep dive demos or anything like that because we only have an hour today to talk about these things. QB desktop updates. We'll also talk about a new announcement, which is clearly just speculation. We want to set that up about this QuickBooks Ledger, new offering. We'll probably hear more we have some facts, but mostly speculation. And we'll probably be able to get a little bit more insight after QB Connect, which is actually next week. And then we'll also talk about the QuickBooks Bill Pay update. So you've been seeing emails or having questions from your clients about what is this QuickBooks Bill Pay service. We'll talk a little bit about that. But our first poll question is, what versions of QuickBooks do you use and support with your clients? You can make as many selections there as you see fit.
Go
ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you a question while we're doing the first poll, if that's okay. Since we're talking about desktop, Jessica's jumped in and already has a great question. That she's new to the QuickBooks space. She's been working towards her ProAdvisors certification. Congratulations. That's awesome. We just have brand new updated content. If you are working on your certifications, the November VCon, which is coming up later this month, will have the new training material in there. So you'll want to check those out. But anyway, she wants to know if desktop is going away or not. She's seen people talking about that. She doesn't know if she should do something specific for desktop or focus on QBO. So Dan, we've been talking about, is it going away or not for 3 to 5 years already? So what's your outlook for the next couple of years?
Yeah. So this year, right, like this is the conversation that we have almost like clockwork every 2 years. So when desktop comes out, when a new version comes out, it's a revisited, a rehash of the conversation. And then in May, when they discontinue the oldest version of live support, right? So that term of desktop discontinuing or service discontinuation, as Intuit puts it, always gets confused with is desktop being going away. Again, this is not on any means of, we can't speak to what Intuit is doing other than interpreting their actions, right? Because that's typically what we do as humans is we interpret people's actions based on their intention. Intuit is definitely encouraging QuickBooks Online. Like we had a discussion, a QB Power Hour, where we were talking about Intuit Assist, right? And Michelle, you were talking a lot about how Sasan, the CEO, really bet the entire company on Intuit Assist, right?
Yes. On
And
the AI. The AI,
and,
yeah.
and that in and of itself, right? So the whole thing there is that you can't really get AI or data from desktop, right? So that's one of the things that it is kind of playing into this conversation. And Intuit is putting so much effort and rigor and money investment into AI and this Intuit Assist. They can't do that in desktop, right? So that being said, they can't just turn it off. Right? They can't just turn off desktop. There is far too many loyal user bases with QuickBooks Desktop. So it's going to take some time. And really, that's what I see and interpret Intuit's actions as doing is they are easing people into QuickBooks on.
Yeah, they're making it harder and harder and harder to just go. You can't just go buy QuickBooks Pro anymore. You can't go to Costco or Office Depot or Staples or whatever. You just can't go buy QuickBooks Pro anymore. So they've just continued that. But also, if you look outside of the US, they used to have QuickBooks in India and in the UK and things like that. It's gone. They don't have QuickBooks Desktop India or UK anymore and things like that. And so it's been going on for a number of years, like you said, Dan, and they're leading up to it. They're making it harder and harder to buy it, harder to find it. And they're making it so that it costs the same basically as online. They're doing everything they can, like Dan said, not to abandon the millions of users on desktop, but to push the desktop users to QuickBooks Online. And so I agree with you, Dan, that I think a couple more years, you know, it's going to just keep getting that way. Somebody will go ahead. I'll just type an answer for her. Go ahead.
No, and this will probably be sprinkled throughout the conversation today about what is Intuit doing about all this stuff. So just really in a nutshell, this is the high level features of what's new in QuickBooks 2024, right? So all versions of QuickBooks Desktop have some security enhancements. Security is obviously a big issue when it comes to what's in your QuickBooks, especially on the desktop platform. The background updates, that's a across the board feature. There's some list search functionality and enhancements there. And then there are some enterprise only enhancements. And this is where the shift for those in desktop is being encouraged. Like Michelle said, you can't even go to QuickBooks' website and order Pro or Premier, but you can order Enterprise, right? So Enterprise is still the desktop software of the preferred desktop software. So that's the one that's getting the most enhancements across the board, right? So if you just look at the difference between what's in Enterprise and what's in all versions, that all versions is really just a superficial type of thing. You know, let's just keep up with today's security issues, that sort of thing. So it's definitely not a reason to upgrade, right? Is if you're going from multiple versions ago, you're getting everything that was in 2022, 2023, 2024 by leapfrogging over. But if you're on 2023 Pro, I can't see that being a huge reason to upgrade and install your upgrade. But Enterprise might be entering into the picture for those that might want to still stay in desktop and stay in a long product, because that is what Intuit has mentioned. That is the shift to the flagship desktop product will be the Enterprise, because it's the most feature rich version, as well as it's already been on a subscription for many, many years, right? So there are some prepayments on sales orders coming in 2024, multiple line categorizations, and then a new report for inventory lot for those that are using Platinum and the enhanced or the advanced inventory. And then there's also some payroll enhancements with regards to enhanced payroll. There's an employee center update as well as integrated 401k. Now, there's a link there for the From the Future article that goes over these features as well. So let's just dive right in here. So in security enhancements, I don't even know what this stands for. AES decryption, which is the standard type of encrypting of data. Prior to 2024, it was 128-bit. It's now going to 256, which is basically some research that I was doing on what is AES 256. It's basically impregnable, right? So if somebody gets a hold of your QuickBooks desktop data, it would take them billions of years to reverse engineer the encryption to get into and see that data. Now, that doesn't mean to say that if they hijack your password to the file, that will allow them to get into the file, right? So don't put your password in an Excel spreadsheet next to where your QuickBooks company file is, because a hacker who might be able to get into your system and copy your QuickBooks company file, if they have the access to the password, and the encryption doesn't mean anything unless you have a good password blocking them out of that, right? But if they happen to intercept an email or something like that with your data in it, or a security breach of wherever your company file happens to be stored, and they get your QBW file, it would be really, really hard for a hacker to be able to get into that data without a password. All right. So moving on, background updates. And this was always one of those things that when you open QuickBooks Desktop and you get an alert for an update, everybody just says, no, thank you. I'll do it later. Because you have to have QuickBooks closed in order for the installation of the maintenance releases that as they come out throughout the course of the year. Those maintenance releases are automatically downloaded, but you only get that prompt when you're launching QuickBooks, which is super annoying because all you want to do is open your QuickBooks. You don't want to install an update. So with 2024, they are actually making it a little bit, giving you a reason or giving you resources so that you can determine if it's actually worth your while to spend that time and do the update before launching into QuickBooks. So there's a link on the message to let you know what's in that update, because there may be a undocumented feature, as we used to call it, or a bug that might be addressed in a maintenance release. And that may be something that you might want to do and take the time to actually do. And then at the top of QuickBooks will be a update is available little button that will get you back to be able to downloading or to installing that update. So that's just something new with background updates. List search functionality. So with 2024, there's going to be a search bar, the price transaction list, the payroll item list, and the fixed asset item list. So if you have a long list of things and you're looking for something in the list itself, inside of those lists, then now you have a way to search for them inside of the list. Across the board, that's what's in Pro and Premier. It's taking a pulse check, right? That's not a lot, right? For Pro and Premier. They haven't really put a lot of emphasis on that, but they have raised the price a little bit, maybe a lot of it, right? I think when they started the subscription for Pro, it was $99, and that was a discounted price. Now today, one user Pro is $649, and that's $649 every year. So that is a huge pricing increase, which, to Michelle, what you were saying is that now this is definitely an encouragement of at least having a conversation about QuickBooks Online, because Pro would you say that Pro is on par feature wise with QuickBooks Online Plus? Would you agree with that statement?
Yes and no. I mean, I would want to have the anywhere, anytime access, but yes, other than that,
yeah,
I mean, it is. And you're right. They're just going to continue raising these prices. So I was putting in the Q&A box that people should just plan on that. When you're pricing your services, hopefully you're increasing your prices at the beginning of the year. You should plan on at least 10% price increase during the year and just build that into your fee. And it's unfortunate. Everything is going up in price. I don't know anything really, not much, but so just plan on that when you're setting the price.
Yeah, my wife was just commenting on how high dog food has increased.
$17 for a little 5-pound bag. I just ordered it on my app. But yes, we need to plan for these price increases, and we need to, in your engagement letters, put in there maybe that you're going to review semi-annually now in the event of price changes of these subscriptions, not just with QuickBooks subscriptions, but any of the other third-party apps you might have. You may have that we will review the pricing semi-annually or instead of annually.
Right. I noticed that Christina had asked a question. Does it actually sunset every year, or can you keep using it after 1 year? So the live support is actually the current year minus 2. That's their policy. So with 2024 coming out, the 2 prior years of active live support and services that will connect to it, like payroll and payments, is 2023 and 2022. Now, 2021 is in this grace period, right? So it doesn't actually discontinue 2021 until May 31st of next year. So at this point in time, there's actually 4 versions of QuickBooks that are actively supported. So 2024, 3, 2, and 1 until 2021 will be discontinued, service discontinuation in May of 2024 is typically the date that's after tax season. So you can plan those things after that. So all of these price changes that are here, they've already gone into effect because those dates have already passed. I realize that's the wrong year in there but regardless, those dates have already passed. So it should be 2023 in the dates. All right. So if you are staying in desktop, Enterprise is going to be the desktop flagship product. It's something that you can still purchase by going into its website. If you are wanting to still get Pro or Premier, you have to call in order to do that. And that is another one of those things that I think Intuit is creating its own destiny, because if you have to call in, and I've seen multiple posts in our Facebook group about experiences with the sales lady to you recommended a customer to call and get a new version of Pro or Premier. But to my understanding, those incidents should be discontinued. But now they are also being incentivized as well.
So Dan, I was muted. I was trying to tell you, you were breaking up really, really bad. Perhaps turning off your video, but you're okay now. No. So, but I was muted and you couldn't hear me either. So
now I'm okay.
Sorry about that. You're fine now. You're breaking up again. Perhaps the video is because your video is freezing.
Okay, I'll turn off the video. How's that now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. That's better. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Now don't move for the next.
I won't move.
Yes, don't move. Stay there.
Okay. So if you are staying in desktop, Enterprise is the desktop flagship product, right? It has all of the features, including all of the accounting tools. So you don't necessarily have to the person that was asking before about, should I get desktop certified and those types of things and get that add-on? You'll have access to those accounting tools if you have a client on Enterprise. Right. So there's superb roles and permissions in Enterprise. You have more concurrent users, and sometimes bundling may actually be more cost effective than Pro or Premier or what you end up having to do in the online space. Right. So there's 4 flavors. There's silver, gold, platinum, and diamond, and each of those has additional things bundled into it. I gave an example here of just a price comparison, just so that you can see that a single user, if they have enhanced payroll with 10 employees, right, under the current pricing situation in Pro, there's no discounts. It's all a la carte. So that Pro Plus subscription at $649, the enhanced payroll, the base price is $550, and the employee charge is $720. So your annual cost for a single user Pro with payroll and 10 employees is almost $2,000 now. With Enterprise Gold and the ProAdvisor discount, enhanced payroll is actually included and there aren't any employee charges. So the annual cost at a ProAdvisor discount is $1,400. So you're saving them $1,500 just by going to the desktop version that will be around for quite some time. So to order Pro, you end up having to call Intuit, which now opens up the potential for having that conversation again with the sales agent. You can still order online with Enterprise. All right.
And Dan,
So let's talk a little bit about, go ahead.
well, Dan, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying close attention. Did you mention the difference between the accountant version of desktop versus the ones that you were just talking about?
No, we're just talking about the enterprise version of QuickBooks, how it has those accountant tools already built into it. You don't necessarily have to have the accountant edition.
Okay. So on the pricing though, for us to buy the accountant edition, is that still a 1-year subscription, isn't it? It will stop working.
So far, if you do get the ProAdvisor add-on with your ProAdvisor membership, if you only have it for a year, the accountant edition will still work if you don't have the subscription. That has not changed yet, but that doesn't mean that tomorrow might be another story, right? But as of today, if you have a 1-year subscription, you get the active version of QuickBooks Accountant Edition. If you didn't renew that the following year, those versions will still work. They won't say, hey, you don't have a subscription, but that's next year. And that could be a different story next year as well.
Okay. And one more question. I'm sorry, Dan. Some people don't understand the logistics. So when your subscription runs out, the online services don't work anymore, like downloading bank feeds or payroll. But what about, can you just access your data read only once your subscription expires? People want to know more about the details of what actually happened.
Yeah. So when you're on a subscription for QuickBooks Desktop and you no longer have an active subscription, it turns into a read-only version of 2023 and higher. If you have a subscription to 2020 and you're using 2023 and then subsequently purchasing 2024 and downloading that, if your subscription lapses or expires, it won't open, right? It won't allow you to make changes to the data, right? You'll be able to open it and run reports, but you won't be able to do anything that modifies the data in that company file without an active subscription. That is only for Pro Plus, Premier Plus, and Enterprise won't even open if you don't have an subscription. So the Pro Plus and the Premier Plus are read only, and then the Enterprise just won't even open if your subscription lapses. The difference there between service discontinuation, what we were talking about earlier, that is an annual policy that Intuit has regarding connected services, like you were mentioning, the bank feeds, as well as the payroll, downloading payroll updates. So 2021 will be service discontinued, even if you have a subscription, right? So you'll have to install your latest update, which you will have. You have all those active updates. As long as you're on a subscription, you can just pick and choose which version you want to go to, whether it's leaping to 2024 or incrementally going to 2022 or 3, because those versions of QuickBooks Desktop will be part of your subscription. Hopefully that addresses or answers that question.
Yeah.
Features in Enterprise, right? So prepayments on sales orders. This is a what took you so long feature. So there's an old way of handling upfront retainers in the customer deposits. I did notate the old way in the article there. But basically with this new version, you'll have a preference to define what liability account you want to track those to, and you can take payments directly on a sales order. So you don't have to turn anything into an invoice in order to take a payment, right? Or you don't have to create a sales receipt in order to record the deposit of that upfront deposit. This will do the accounting side of things right on the sales order. And then when you turn that sales order into an invoice, you'll be able to apply that credit, that deposit when it is turned into an invoice. So hooray, this is a long been waited for feature, but finally makes its entrance into the 2024 version, but it's only enterprise. So you need to be in the enterprise in order to do that. Inventory lot in report. So this is only Platinum, because Platinum is the only version of enterprise that has the advanced inventory. So you're doing serial number or lot number tracking, you have to be in the Platinum version of enterprise in order to do that. One of my favorite inventory reports is a stock status report. And now you'll get a stock status report by lot number. And then because they introduced expiration date in 2023, now you can use this report and filter it by expiration date as well. This is a nice feature to let you know where is your inventory lot, because when it comes to lot, you essentially have recalls and those types of things. So you want to know where they are pretty much at all times. And that's what that stock status report will allow you to do. So nice feature there. And then moving on to the connected services. So enhanced payroll, will have some enhancements in the employee center. So this is nothing more than, if you can see the screenshot, that little yellow dot. So when you're on the employee center, if you have not set up some required information on the employee, you're going to get that alert. As it's just a dot, it doesn't seem like much, but it will play havoc at the end of the year. So this will help you when you're setting up enhanced payroll, if there are some required fields missing, and then that will alert you to that. And then you'll have a tab now for required info on the employee so that you can make sure that information is all set up for you. And then guideline for 401k is the recommended integrated 401k solution. So that's making its way again into 2024. And then there'll be alerts if you haven't set up things properly for that. But basically this will allow you to track the contributions, deductions, as well as everything else regarding the 401k right inside of the QuickBooks desktop. All right. So let's launch this next poll as far as, and that is really it with regards to what the new features are in 2024. And I've lost there it is. Okay. I'm going into, there we go. So what are your initial thoughts on these enhancements?
Okay. So there's been a lot of discussion out here and stuff. One of the things that Carrie brought up, I think you might know her a little bit. Some of the other people were talking to, but thank you, Carrie. She was talking about what a pain it is to try to upgrade all of them individually on desktop files. And I said something about, wait a minute, I thought the accountant had a file manager, and in there you could do a batch upgrade. And she's pointing out, yeah, but it's not QBO or QB desktop admin. You have to be the computer admin. And so she still has to log out and log back in, and how it's a real pain to upgrade or update all of the desktop files. Do you have any comments on that? Like, why did it make?
Yeah, because that is just that, right? The idea is that you do have the file manager and you do a batch update, but that is wherever that file happens to be stored, right? So for the full charge bookkeepers who have that are doing their desktop management of the files in-house, that file manager is great because you're doing it all for your clients anyway, internally. But your clients that are at their location, that's a one-off type of thing. You could, make as part of your engagement, okay, if you're getting up to date, send me your file, and then, you do a batch update at once and then send it back. But then there's the whole idea of that's a nuisance, right? Because you've got to make that arrangement of them sending your file, sending the file to you, you update it and then send it back, which of course they still need to download and install the new version in order to even open it. Yeah. That's part of the challenge of desktop, right? Where there is something to install, there's something to download, there's something to update, something to back up. So there's a file involved, which takes it's out of the picture when you're talking about a cloud-based accounting solution like QuickBooks Online. So that's one of the cat versus dog analogy that I have with QuickBooks being a dog if it's desktop or cat if it's QuickBooks Online. We have a nice little blog about that if you really want to look at that a little further. But yeah, that's one of those challenges. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a couple more questions quick, and then let's get into QuickBooks Ledger and some of the bill pay stuff. Anyway, okay. So another quick question. Sarah, two quick questions maybe. Sarah's concerned that the ProAdvisor program now says plus on it. It's ProAdvisor program plus. And she's worried that implies it helps skill switch.
Yeah. That has actually been around since I was there. So I left Intuit in 2018. QuickBooks ProAdvisor Accountant Plus, that was always a term that was there, but not always socialized as highly as it is today. But yeah, I really hate the fact that they use so many keywords to describe, Pro Plus, Premier Plus, and then Plus is also a version of QuickBooks Online. It ends up getting very maddening to try to keep up with all these keywords, but Accountant Edition Plus has been around for a long time. And as it sits today, so I can't guarantee you what might happen tomorrow, but as it sits today, if you don't have an active ProAdvisor desktop subscription, your Accountant Edition does not clunk, right? And meaning that you can't open it if you don't have that subscription. So it doesn't do. Now that's only with Accountant Edition. And that's only with the desktop add-on that we're referring to.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, one more question. Sorry, Jolene wants to know if she's using Right Network and so her clients are bundled under her Right Network CPA account. I have to pay for Enterprise from QuickBooks to access the client's Enterprise data file. That's a huge price difference. Jolene, if it's hosted on Right Networks, you should be able to log in as an accountant user on that hosted file. Dan, do you want to talk to that? What type of license she needs if she's the accountant user to access client files when they're hosted?
Yeah, as long as they have enough concurrent user seats to accommodate multiple users, then that should be fine. There should be an extra charge for you to be an additional user. Now, reading the end user license agreement to a T, Intuit may have a different opinion of that, but the only way that they can confirm or enforce the number of users on a license right now is when you're actively in the file, right? So you have a 5-user license and there are 5 people in it and you come in as the accountant, it's going to say you don't have enough user licenses to be able to open the file. Now, if one of those people get out, you can log in just fine, right? So they don't need to purchase anything additional on top of that for you to have access as an accountant user. They would just set that up inside the file and then you would just be able to log in. Now, if it's a single user, then only one person at any given time will be able to log into that enterprise file in that environment. Now, with regards to Right Networks, I don't know what their leasing arrangement might be when it comes to licensing. But if you're purchasing it through Intuit and bundling it in with Right Networks as their preferred hosting platform, that's typically how that works. Now, Right Networks may have a different level of service that that's not part of this conversation.
Okay. Can we go ahead and move on and then we can get back to some more Q&A a little bit later? Because
Absolutely.
I want to talk about QuickBooks Ledger. I love
right. Well, here we are.
I love speculating and trying to read into it, doing and everything. So this is talking about QuickBooks.
You did a little research on this, so go ahead and you talk about it.
Well, you can introduce it. Go ahead. That's fine too.
QuickBooks Ledger.
This is online. I want to make it clear that this is online now. That's all. So go ahead.
Yeah. So there was an announcement. I saw Ted Callahan posted about this. I'm sure we'll find out a little bit more at QuickBooks Connect in the next week. but there was an announcement about QuickBooks Ledger, which is in the online space. And I am speculating that it is solely to compete with Zero Ledger and or Zero Cash Book, which is an account preference or offering them as Zero offers. From what I understand, there's no client access, but it's really just a matter of some of the features that you'll do inside of QuickBooks Online to be able to process a smaller client who doesn't necessarily need to do anything with their books, right? So those full charge bookkeepers that were doing things in online can do something similar to that with QuickBooks Ledger. Michelle, do you based on what you saw?
Yeah. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next page, so really what this was like, Dan, and I agree with you, it's competing with the Zero Ledger, Zero Cash Book type of scenario where basically it's a bank feed to get all the downloaded bank transactions and everything. And Caleb was the one that mentioned this. It's like Simple Start without the ability to do any sales or bill transactions. You can't do invoicing or sales receipts. You can't do a transaction. It's basically an after the fact, and you can see that in the first bullet here. This is excerpted, I assume Jacob, you can see down there in the bottom right. He's the one that posted this out. If you follow tax Twitter, this is where I was researching a bunch of this. But this tells you what it is. So this isn't speculation. This is an email that Intuit sent to selected people. And as you can see, it's an after the fact or write up, the first bullet there. Tax only clients that you don't do anything with all year long, except their tax return. Or if you've got multiple company clients with non-operating entities, think about these clients that had 5 different companies and really all the activities in one primary company and the other 4 don't have much activity at all. You could set up those non-operating entities, the holding company, if you will, or some of those sister entities, which without any activity, you could set that up with QuickBooks Ledger. So it's really a way for us accounting professionals to work with these really small, low activity clients. And so you can look down there and the features include down on the bottom bullets, the auto bank feeds, the bank reconciliation, generating reports for your financial statements, 1099, seamless transition to tax preparation. Let's think about that. What is this going to integrate with? If this is a QBO type of product, what is it going to integrate with? Well, what does QBO integrate with? PTO, ProConnect Tax Online. So I don't anticipate a direct connection to Lacert or TurboTax, but Lacert or Pro Series, the desktop products. But who knows? Intuit might have created a file for them to export and import into those more seamlessly. So the whole idea here is for them to provide something for us very affordable, because what I was seeing, Caleb is on the inside with Intuit, so I kind of trust some of the things that Caleb posts. But this all could change. It could be different. I got it off the internet. It must be true, right? Anyway, Caleb is saying that based on the people that he's talked to at Intuit, it's going to be $10 a month. So let's assume that's correct. That's $120 a year to have one of these small clients set up where you're downloading all the transactions, reconcile the accounts, and run those reports, and then integrate it with PTO. Or I would assume there's probably a trial balance that you could import into another tax package with a little manipulation or something. I'm not sure about that. But this is fact on what it's going to do. And the thing about the Zero Ledger and the Zero Cash Book, those have been around for years. I mean, I actually taught Zero, several years ago. When Zero was first coming to the U.S. and making a splash, I was teaching, and they had the cash book type of thing back then. So Zero's had an option like this for accounting professionals for years. And Dan's comment about the clients are not going to have access to this. No, this is not for somebody to use to enter an invoice or enter a payment or an expense. This is not for entering transactions, for downloading from the bank and being able to generate financial statements. So at least based on what I've got here, I'm basing everything on what I've got here and discussion that I was seeing in tax Twitter and stuff. Dan, if you want to go to the next slide, the other thing that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to speculate and talk with you about on the next slide is a tweet from Ashley Sutter. And you can see down there at the bottom, she is the director of the U.S. Accountant Sales. Okay, so she should know what she's posting on Twitter, so we should be able to rely on that. She is high up from Intuit, and she's saying on here, I'm thrilled to share this exclusive early sign up. If that isn't enough, here's what I thought was interesting. Our team will also help you migrate before tax season. Okay, so it's going to be available before the end of the year in tax season, or before tax season is what it's sounding like. And we're going to migrate to this. So some of the stuff that I saw that Caleb posted is that we could upgrade to this, but we could not downgrade to this. It wouldn't be an upgrade, but we can't downgrade to this. So if you have an existing client using QBO Essential, Intuit's not going to let you go backwards, let's say, or I would assume, if you're using Simple Start, you can go backwards. So if you got it sounded to me, if you had a client already using QBO, you couldn't downgrade them to the QuickBooks Ledger. If it's a new client, you can sign them up on QuickBooks Ledger. So my question is, what are we migrating? If we can't downgrade clients to Ledger, what would we have to migrate? That was a disconnect in the information I saw from Caleb and others that might have commented that you could upgrade but not downgrade to this. First of all, it wouldn't seem like an upgrade to me. That didn't make sense to me. It's only going to be available to accounting professionals via QBOA, our preferred pricing program. So you have to be a ProAdvisor to use it, and have the wholesale pricing set up. The ProAdvisor preferred pricing. It has to be under us. So you can't have clients that go by that. Dan, anything that you want to add or speculate with me? What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to call out is the whole idea of self-employed and where does that sit? That is completely separate from this conversation that we're talking about with QuickBooks Ledger. Self-employed is for the gig guy, right? The Uber driver or something that's commingling funds and wants to split between the two. Whereas Ledger is an accountant only function, right? So I don't know. And this firm that has been Intuit has been throwing around of migrating from desktop to QuickBooks Online, or in this case, migrating from we don't know what into QuickBooks Ledger. I don't know what that means as far as what you can migrate from in order to get it in there. But I would imagine there's probably a host of QuickBooks Online subscriptions that are in subscriptions that they're not being utilized. They're being utilized in this way, but not the customer doesn't even have access to them. So I think this is likely what that is solving for. I remember talking to an accountant back in that you would really enjoy. There were other solutions that were out there where it's cloud-based, where they could basically create their own online access for themselves and just have the QuickBooks Online experience, but not necessarily needing anything for their clients to have access to. They would pretty much do all the things for them. So I think this is what this is trying to solve for. I just don't know what it looks like or what it tastes like, feels like, or whatever. No more details than what's currently out there.
It does sound exciting, though, especially for those people that do a lot of tax returns and everything. I mean, the ability to get the bank feed and instead of bank rules, you can process a whole year's worth of transactions in a fraction of the time, especially if it's a small client with low transaction clients. Notice Ashley put that out in there, low transaction clients. So I don't know if there's going to be a limit to the number of transactions throughout the year. I wouldn't think so. Who knows? But it makes sense from Intuit's perspective. They're not going to let you downgrade, let's say, from QBO Essentials or Plus to Ledger, because then Intuit is going to lose money if you downgrade a client. But it makes sense that they will let you upgrade. So if you start a client with QuickBooks Ledger and their business grows, then you could upgrade them, let's say, to QBO Essentials. That would make sense that you could do that. So it does sound interesting, especially if you do a lot of tax clients and everything. And yes, you probably will see a demo or a video on this next. So Dan, I can't wait to hear you reporting back on what you find out. Also,
I will definitely pay attention during that time period.
Yeah. And we were talking about the ProAdvisor program earlier. It has been reimagined with some new benefits that are available and some changes in the tier levels and the point and how they do all that. So you'll want to pay attention to that at Connect as well. And we'll give you updates afterwards for those of you that will be there.
All right. So we'll wrap this up with the QuickBooks Bill Pay service. So there was some emails flowing around there early on, very confusing from to it about Melio, Bill Pay, whether it's going away, yesterday. And so we talked a little bit about this on a prior QB Power Hour, where the integrated bill pay solutions started with a discussion or a partnership with Bill. They created like a Bill.com light version back in 2015 or so. There was a fee associated with that. It was integrated and the accountant users had trouble accessing and using it. And then ultimately around COVID, Melio came into the mix as the integrated bill pay solution. Now QuickBooks is wanting to take its own stab at its own service. Kick Melio to the curb, but Melio still works, right? You can still use Melio. You can still use Bill.com. You just can't use Bill.com service in the fashion where it's deeply integrated directly within QuickBooks Online. So there's some new offerings. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So there's a basic, premium, and elite. I do appreciate that they're using the same adjective for this as they are for payroll, except for basic. Somehow core doesn't ring true with a bill pay solution. But with basic, it doesn't cost you anything. You get 5 free ACH payments a month, automatic bill creation, and it's auto matched to that transaction. So where the QuickBooks Bill Pay service, I think, is going to really, the advantage of that is that when you send a bill, or when somebody sends you an invoice that's also using QuickBooks, because of the QuickBooks network that they're creating, that it will allow you to be able to create a bill for the recipient. So that's one of those things that one action creates multiple actions down the road, right? That is where a QuickBooks Bill Pay service, I think, will have its advantage, right? And that's where it really excels in the deeply integrated service, right? Now, if you go with the premium, there's a cost for that. It's $15 discounted for the first 3 months. You get 40 free ACH payments, but now that includes unlimited 1099 filing. As you're using the bill pay service to pay your vendors or your contractors, now the 1099 service that typically comes in January is now included as part of that. On top of that, then there's Elite, which jumps up to $90 a month, but you get unlimited ACH payments and adding on additional roles and permissions, as well as bill approval workflows. And I don't think you have to have individual like Advanced, right? So Advanced has that approval options. This will be like outside of that or within QuickBooks without needing to have the Advanced subscription in order to do that. Now, if they are requiring Advanced in order to have the Elite bill pay, well, then shame on them, right? But that remains to be seen. But I think you can be able to opt into that service without it. And then if you go over your basic or premium allotment, it's 50 cents a transaction. Check payments for all plans are $1.50. So pretty much on par with the costs of the other bill pay services. But just wanted to have it like side by side here, which the pros and cons of each one. QuickBooks is going to be deeply integrated. So the integration is going to take care of, it's going to be the advantage there, the 1099 preparation and always creating bills. The cons are untested, right? And it's only bill pay only, and it's only QBO only. Melio is free-ish to use. They only cost you if you're using a credit card or getting money faster, those types of things that cause a fee associated with that. There is a bi-directional sync with Melio and the flexibility of payment methods where you don't necessarily have to set up your vendor, much like in Venmo or PayPal, right? You're just sending money to them and then they can decide how they want to receive it. And then the remittance is, with regards to Melio, from what I've seen of using it, the remittance is vague to the vendor, right? So you have to put in a memo. And if you're using multiple payments, because you can do that now, it doesn't really have each individual payment that's part of that. Corpay One is one that I've also been working with. But it's a nice all-in-one platform where it has AP expense reports as well as corporate cards. And then you can customize workflows. It's less costly than Bill, but their desktop integration is not as robust as their QBO integration. And of course, the Bill option it's established, it's synchronized with both online and desktop. Highest functionalities, you have PO matching, there's a vendor network. The cons are it's pretty expensive, right? There's a per user fee and the transaction fees are a little higher. So I just want to lay out some of the bill payment options. And we want to throw out the last whole question, which is which bill payment service do you currently use? Oh, I did hit launch, did I? Yes, I did. Okay. All right. Any other questions that popped up there while I was?
You betcha. All right. Rapid fire. Do inactive contractors count towards your limit? Inactive
contractors.
In your limit.
The only limit. The number of payments that you're making, it has nothing to do with how many users or contractors or anything like that. It's just the number of ACH payments with regard to the limits that you're making. And that's on a monthly basis. So you have basic is 5 per month, right? So whether they're active or inactive is irrelevant. But as far as the 1099s, was that the question?
I'm not sure. It was just how many. And I would think inactive wouldn't count anyway. If they're inactive. Yeah. Even if they had some limits, I would think if they're inactive, it wouldn't count. How long does it take for payments to be received by the vendor?
Yeah, with the QuickBooks Bill Pay service, I think it's 5 to 10 days. And it's right around the same time period as the Melio funding. They are likely going to, I would imagine, we'll see a faster option for a fee. With very much Bill.com. I get constant nudgings from Bill.com to receive my funds faster. If I would like to pay them an additional fee to do that. So I would assume we'll see something like that with the QuickBooks Bill Pay service, but around 5 to 10 days. So you can schedule those things accordingly.
Okay. One last one. Jolene says Intuit says one of her clients is using Bill, which will no longer be available, but she can't figure out which client's doing that. How do you find out? Or is it just a blanket email from Intuit?
That is a good question. And the thought that comes to me is when you go into your QBOA, you click on apps on the left side, and then you choose client apps, and then you'll be able to see every client there and what apps are connected to them. It will be a manual process, but at least you'll be able to, you won't have to go into each client in order to look at the overview to see what's connected. But if you go into your QBOA, click on apps on the left side, use client apps, then just peruse down. I would assume it's in alphabetical order, but I haven't looked at the client apps organization today. So I may be that way. It may be based on how they've connected it or how they have, whether it's alphabetical or not in there.
All right. So, Dan, I think you've got through most everything here. So, we went kind of quickly there at the end, but I think we still got through it. So, we had some great questions from everybody. Thank you. Anything else, Dan? You want to try your video here at the end? Wrap it up. Say bye.
I'll stop sharing and I'll turn on now everything reorganized.
There you go.
How was this? Was the sound horrible? I apologize for the Raleigh, North Carolina connection here, but it's only this week, and next week I'm on to Florida.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I thought it was great. So thank you for updating us on what's coming new with desktop as well as some of this other stuff. And I hope you have a great time at QuickBooks Connect. Think about me. It's the first one I'm missing, and I've already got FOMO really bad. So you'll have to update us all when you get back on the new stuff that you've learned and everything that went on.
All right. We'll see you next time on the QuickBooks Power Hour. Hope you all have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.